All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Melissa Davis. I'm one of the event managers for the Office of Equity. My pronouns are she, her. The Office of Equity is committed to hosting accessible events that promote belonging, justice, dignity, honor, and respect. Language and communication services are provided today. For ASL, we have Beth and Madison, and for our closed captioning, we have Renee. Sorry, my document's going wonkers. To use uh, click the live transcript CC icon at the bottom of the screen next to the reactions icon, and this will show you where you can click show subtitle. And I think that's it. I think I'll just turn it over to Jolene.
Well, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you to our ASL interpreters and our captioners. We are broadcasting, or I'm broadcasting, on the land of the Duwamish. I am Jolene Jang, and I have brown hair that I just curled up to look nice today, because I think when you want to be confident, you have to look and feel your best, and whatever it needs to be. So I put on some lipstick and I did my hair and tidied up. So I am also a 51-year-old, and I stand petite and small in stature. And I use pronouns she and her, and I am non-disabled. Thank you for coming to Speak Up Your Voice Matters. This is a series of 3. Speak Up Your Voice Matters. This is really important, and I'm going to share with you why to help you be bold and make bigger steps to be out of your comfort zone. I'm going to let that person in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to review the session 1 and session 2, and then we'll get into session 3. And I hope by that time that you will have your cameras on and we'll take an opportunity to speak and be bold, because we need you. So in terms of why am I here, and who am I? So Jolene Jang, and I'm ethnically Chinese, Japanese, and Swedish, and I'm culturally Japanese American. So this picture that you see is at Bon Ondori. So this is, for those of you who are in Seattle, this is at the Buddhist church. So I do not believe my mother is Buddhist, but but all of the Japanese events are around the Buddhist church, because people were, if you are not white, a lot of times you are not liked. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Seattle Buddhist temple, Betsuin Temple. It was in the news. I think it was last year. And so it was set on fire. There was a person who set it on fire, I think unintentionally, but he was a little bit was intoxicated, I believe. And so what happened at that Buddhist temple is all the artifacts and things in the downstairs of the Buddhist temple were burned. And what was so frustrating is that the stories that talked about the Buddhist temple being burnt was about the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts, their goods, $3,000 worth of their equipment was burnt and needs to be replaced. And I'm thinking that is not the story. I was talking to my aunts and my mom, and they said, oh, actually, during the war, World War II, a lot of belongings to Japanese Americans, as well as urns with, urns, right, were there. And that was not the story. So the idea, we need our voices out there. So this is an example, and this is a podcast. I have a podcast, Aren't Asians All Alike? And I did a short 10-minute piece about this, because our stories need to be told. And there are a number of Asian newscasters here in Seattle. However, that doesn't mean that Asian stories get to be into the news. So it is important that you raise your voice, and particularly now. Here is my parents, both back in the day, and also recently, and myself. And here are my grandparents. They're now have passed on, but these are my Japanese grandparents. So they're Nisei. And they were one of the 5,000 Japanese Americans who were not incarcerated, but they were forced out of their homes to go to a farm. They knew somebody. So why do I tell you this? Because I believe it's important to claim your culture. It's interesting. You're able to share with others. We don't get this education in school. And so when we can share our culture, please do. Because as you see, the go for broke, right? The 442, the Japanese American segregated unit, they were the most decorated military, U.S. military of all time. But it was removed, right, from the artifacts. But some of it was replaced. And with politics right now, education is being dismantled, and education that is out there in the Smithsonian, in the U.S. archives, is being taken away. So again, it is so important that your voice is out there. And so I wanted to share a couple of things from me of why it's important to me, and I hope these are important to you and your stories are as well. And right now, how is it relevant now? There's a group called Sudo for Solidarity, and it's by Japanese Americans. And they fought for reparations during World War II, and my mom was a recipient as a Japanese American. And they also help Black Americans get reparations, to work towards reparations. And right now in Seattle, I don't know if you heard this story, but they are monitoring the deportations. So at the Boeing field, the Sudo for Solidarity and Restancia, they are working together to record what is happening out there. So in terms of Venezuelans being deported, and they're documenting. So Stan, the reason he is a Japanese American, the reason he is doing this is because he understands, right? His family were incarcerated in the internment camps. And so he wants the people who are being deported now to know, hey, you are not alone, and we're recording this, and this is not right, and we'll do what we can. And so the reason I bring this story of relevance is also because when I think of Japanese Americans and I think of my relatives, like my personal relatives, they're not going to be out marching or chanting on the street. That's not my Japanese American family. That's like they may help, but not out in the street. And here's an example of everybody can help with whatever you believe in with your skills. You don't have to be up in front. You can be in the background, but still helping. So, and those of you who just popped in here, I want to share with you why your voice is so important. And so I hope you understand how powerful your voice can be. And this is a podcast talking about looking at the deportations and how that is going. Yes. And Armenia says Japanese Americans were the first to stand up against family separation in detention centers. So this is my grandparents on my father's side, Chinese and Swedish. And my Chinese grandpa, I never got to meet him, but he had a pancake house in Bothell. And my grandma, her sister was a madam and was kicked out of a couple of different states. So I have a very colorful background. And my dad had a family, but was more of a foster kid and bounced around a lot. And you wonder, well, Jolene, why are you telling this? Aren't you supposed to be talking about confidence? Well, I'm also want to talk about claiming your culture because this is so important. And the reason that I am bold is because my dad talked about fighting when he was a kid, right? He's in a white community. And he's small in stature. And so I have that fight in me. I haven't gotten in a physical brawl before, but I was taught to stick up for justice. And, as I tell you about my family, I want you to know, like, where you come from and your family, these are all things that shape you and they do matter. And as you think back to what your parents or your chosen family or your guardians have gone through, you can help find your resistance. And then this is in February, this is a picture of the International District. And it is many of us, well, about 100 or so in Chinatown, were drawing attention to the Chinese Exclusion Act and when Chinese were chased out. So there's many ways you can draw attention to your culture. And then recently, I listened. Pramila Jayapal, she's putting on resistance labs, and it is how to find your voice and how to come up with ideas. So that's something that I thought was pretty interesting and relevant to today. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to review the first session that we did. And how many of you are here for the first time? Oh, it's good to see your faces. I'm on another computer too. Hello, Mark, Marissa. Great to see you all. So hopefully by a few slides in, you will turn on your cameras. So when you get a little more comfortable, go ahead and think about turning on your cameras. So what we're going to do, review the homework, and then we're going to intro people who haven't spoken on this series before. And we're going to talk about techniques to get the microphone. Sometimes it's hard to jump in and to get the microphone. So I'm going to share with you how to do that, even if you don't want to, but how important it is and how to do that. And then we're going to talk about allyship. And then we're going to go through some real life scenarios. And think of the scenarios that you are in or you have been in the past so we can workshop it out. That's what we are here to do. So please take advantage of this time to be able to ask questions and share your ideas. So let's talk about foundations of confidence. So in this first session, we talked about understanding self-hatred and how it shows up in your life. And I didn't even know the term until several years ago. So know that you are not alone with the self-hatred. It's part of people teach us to not like where we come from. And so it's hard to shake, but know that you are not alone on this journey. And also talking about, if you watch the first video that we did together, listen to how people are stereotyped and how that impacts them. And again, just know you're not alone. When, when I walk into if I were to walk into a mechanic shop, well, I realize I'm a petite woman, Asian woman, and that, you know what? It's possible I might be taken advantage of. They think I don't know anything. So because of that, I will gear up and I'll know more and drop some lingo down so they can kind of push away their stereotypes. So just understanding how people perceive you can help you navigate how you show up. Okay. Mustafa, good to see you. Good to see you. Okay. So in terms of building confidence, I talked about building your accomplishment list. And let's see, Veronica, like Monica, Monica, like Veronica. So she was talking about her accomplishment list and running through it. And when you think of your job now, think of how you got there. You had to work hard and all your accomplishments. I would have those handy for those times where you need confidence. If I were to be nervous at some point, I think of, you know what? I was interviewed on Oprah. I mean, come on. If you can be on Oprah and make it through, you can do anything. And so maybe you don't have an Oprah moment, but maybe what is it for you? Figure out what that is for you and have those handy for that confidence boost. And think of the tough times that you've been through. So There were a lot of first and second generation Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders on some of the other first and second series. And there's a lot that they have overcome. There was a lot. So take those skills and those stories and say, you know what, I did this before. So working with this person who's really difficult to work with is nothing than escaping the country. So I would use your past histories to build that confidence. And also, who is in your Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander feed? Who do you follow? For me, I didn't really have any in my feed until 5 years ago. Just mainstream feed. Um, you know, Probably white guys. But now I have primarily AA NHPIs in my feed. So I can feel, oh my gosh, look at that. And Duckworth, right? Tammy Duckworth, she was speaking to Booker and during the trials, during the hearings of the confirmations, she was always in there. Andy Kim, young senator from New Jersey, he is also a great speaker. They don't have to be politicians, but whoever it is, get them in your feed so you could say, yeah, say it, and find the people that model what you want, how you want to be, and how you want to act. That has made a huge difference in my life. And I have lots of resources if you're like, well, I don't really know. I can help you with that as well. Okay, ChatGPT. We have talked quite a bit about ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot. These are different AI bots that can help you. So what I did is I created a confidence question prompt, and this is in your homework if you want it. And you can. What I said here was, "Hey, I said, I'm an Asian American. Help me build my confidence. Ask me questions in a conversational way to help me see the winner that I am." And then it comes up with a question, and you can talk back and forth. And on your phone, you physically can talk into it and it will talk back to you. And I highly suggest doing that because in our culture, it's we're not supposed to be braggarts or it's hard to understand, confidence and braggarts, it's hard to draw the line. So usually we're just quiet and then heads down. So it is really important to build this confidence. I also have a few videos behind me that I think would be helpful for you to watch. One is Shark Tank, because in these Shark Tank videos, people are pitching their ideas for their products. And 3 out of the 5 were Asian Americans, and they did a really good job. You can see, what did they do? How did they exude the confidence that they did? And then my favorite, it's a 1 minute video, is this New Zealander. What is her? Let's see. She is a legislator in New Zealand, called an MP, and I can't, member of parliament. Thank you. And I believe she was 21 when she joined, and she does a haka in the courtroom. And there are other Maori with her. And even just thinking about right now just brings me to tears because she is claiming her culture so hard right there. And I wish that the rest of us could claim our cultures too. So when you want that courage, see if listening to her haka works for you. And then the other one is Red Table Talk. So Jada Pickett. So this is the Black and Asian conversation, and it is really makes my heart race, good and bad, but it's really important. It's a crucial conversation, and it almost never happens. And I encourage you to watch it and to see how you feel. What would you have said? How could you get into that conversation? What kind of support would you need? And how would you support Lisa Ling, the one Asian in this um, conversation. So these videos are to help you think and workshop out what would you do. So regarding that, I know there's a few of you who have been here the whole time. Can you share what kind of homework you have done? How have you thought about building your confidence? Have you watched some of those videos? Go ahead and raise your hand and let's hear from a couple of you. And for those of you who are new, I'm just going to wait in silence until somebody says something. So that's how we do it. This is our opportunity. So go ahead and raise your hand.
So one thing I have been practicing,
Hmm.
like from the last session, number two, saying something to remember that person's name. So my work, especially, like I have to remember people's names and getting people's names, pronunciations, and getting things spelled right. So we have this thing called the Volunteer Service Awards, and so with all our winners, I make sure to call them. And this year, we have budgetary restraints, so we can't actually go out into communities and present awards like we do. So I have written scripts for our commissioners to actually announce the winners to kind of keep that local recognition as well. Since if there's an enterprise-wide travel restriction due to because we have budgetary restraints. So I've had like for instance, there was a person named Pascal. I was like, is it Pascal or Pascal? And is it Shu or Shubak or Shubak? And I've been practicing like little ways to learn how to pronounce people's names. One of the things that stuck with me the most was something that you said, Jolene, about being the ANHPI leader that you want to see. And so even though I get super nervous when I like talk in front of people or give presentations, that's kind of what motivates me. And I got a chance to practice this just a couple weeks ago at work. So in my I work for Serve Washington, and we have these regular town hall meetings, and they're virtual town halls in which different divisions with our agency, overall agency of OFM, they give presentations just to let employees know what it is that we do to know each other, and then in between the presentations, employees are invited to give like a short 4-minute presentation about who they are and share a personal story. So um, I actually decided, okay, I'll put myself out there. I've given like short written biographies for different like work projects, but I've never really shared my story outside of like my family and close friend circle. So I did a short 4-minute presentation. I talked about myself as a Filipino American, daughter of Filipino immigrants, and I shared the story of how my mom immigrated from the Philippines to the US in the 1970s to escape martial law when Ferdinand Marcos rose to power, and how that shaped my worldview, and how important it was to be aware of my personal surroundings and use um, other people's voices to tell their stories um, to impact change. And that inspired me to become a journalist, and I also and I continued telling stories through that career. And then I also shared my personal story of surviving a layoff and then going into spending a couple terms in AmeriCorps National Service, doing a lot of storytelling about the organizations I served at, and that, including that service, really opened the doors to being a professional communications consultant, the career I am now, telling stories about the great things that my agency does to help the people of the state of Washington. And so throughout this whole experience, I learned that my voice does matter. When I was giving that presentation and telling stories about myself, I kept seeing all the heart emojis pop up on the screen and comments and people saying that you did awesome. I even got some comments afterwards. People contacted me and said, "Hey, you did a great job." And so um, I learned my voice does matter, and people care about what I have to say. So So that's something I really took away from this course.
Yeah, and if you didn't do that presentation, you wouldn't know.
When I register for your course, I also register for the WIN at the same time. And they asked me to tell my story. And I'm like, wow, this would be a good opportunity for me to use some of your information and some of your skill set that you had taught the course, you know. And one thing that really stands out for me is telling my story. What stands out in my mind is tell your story. You got to speak up at your story because that's powerful. So that stands out, and it also decreases my anxiety a little bit. You know, coming from you who has 20 plus years experience, and here I have a little bit of public speaking experience, but not so much as in camera and everywhere else. It's only job opportunity, so it's an obligation and not for like passion. So, using that model of saying, hey, tell my story, and it's powerful, it's important, I uses that to tell my story. And then to convey
And
at
what
that
was your
time,
story and who was this to?
yes, the story was my story. I title it My Journey, My Heroes, and it is to the WIN. The WIN is a Washington Immigration Network. A little bit story about what they do is the WIN is goals is to strive and expand opportunities for immigrants who are current and future employee of Washington state government, but also as a resource for immigrants who are state employees to connect, to share, and educate each other, as well as providing some skills and expertise of culture value to the direct workforce. So to tell my story, I'm like, this is a great opportunity for me to use your techniques, the marrying a little bit. And so using that my story as my own story so that they could relate and so to speak to their heart and touches their heart for me. Um, I was really scared. I was really nervous because I never tell my story
And your
because
story from
yeah.
Cambodia?
In
Yeah.
Cambodia, yes. I am a first generation Cambodian refugee, come here and was here in 1983. But my first year of my life was in a refugee camp. So I go through all kinds of suffering, malnutrition, not, they're just, the story is even more, but I don't think we have time to share my whole story of the food, the famine, the starvation, and what I do and how I believe in God because to me, most time that I found money. I mean, when you go through 10 years of your life and you found three times find money out of the blue when you're so desperate in food, that is something to me that's divine intervention. So I believe in that. And so I share that story with them. And I share the story of how my mom, every time we escape or hide and we escape to Thailand, she pray. And that's my story. It's like, yes, she prays, and so, and then her teaching as well. And so the heroes are the people that connected, that I had influence in my life. Like Jolene, for me, like for you is your voice saying your story is powerful, right? So for me, this is what I've gonna continue to incorporate in my journey throughout my life, continue on. And my quote that I have, Jolene, is we are teachers and we are students, which mean we learn each and every day wherever we go. Like with you, you're teaching me, but yet I also impart with you how I go through and what I've been through. Your stories as immigrant is different than I am because there is, your parent is different than your story. So that's what I'm learning a lot from you and the what you call it the transferring of the skills set that too is I don't always use the right word because my words don't always transfer because I'm bilingual in Cambodian, so sometimes I speak backward. Which is okay because as long as they understand, people does say that's your signature. You speak backward and you put S's everywhere. So, and I say, I'm sorry, but you know that is me. She said, Even in writing." So, But thank you, Jolene. I
Well,
appreciate it.
tell us this. How did you feel afterwards, after you spoke in front of this group?
I feel wonderful. I was scared, and then as I get more comfortable, I get better. And then when afterward, we asked the feedback, and the feedback was, it's very heartfelt. I it hit to their core. They could relate to it. A few of them cried because of what I've gone through, how I eat, or what I have to scrape at the restaurant scraps to get by. So I touches them. And to me, that's powerful, like you say. And to me, using that story and relating that, and if you could move them in ways, especially with the heart, to me that's important. So yes, being camera, I'm nervous, but with your help right now, it's I'm getting better.
Thank
I
you.
want to be like you, maybe to
Oh,
just talk whatever and not have to worry about being nervous.
well, I think that's the idea. Okay, Mark, way to go. Yes. Let's
Hi,
hear from you.
thanks, Jolene. Um, so I saw that video of Hannah Rao T. I don't think I'm saying her name
Hmm.
correctly. Um, but I saw that, I don't even know, over a year ago, I feel like. It was like maybe shortly after she was confirmed, and I probably watched that video of her maiden speech where she first performed the haka in Parliament, and I was just like my heart was pounding, and just like I just like had this like surge of just like confidence and excitement, and like I don't know, it just endeared me so deeply. And that was actually kind of it didn't really start a like a learning journey, but I've been paying attention. I've been following her, and sometimes when I need a boost, when I need to feel like confidence, I'm a Japanese American, um, and like there's no haka, like there's no Japanese equivalent, right? Like that would be like such a like a strange thing for Japanese people to do. They just wouldn't, right? So, but like, so there's nothing I can like tune into or like look up that like would give me the same thing from, right? Like from my like heritage. But when I watched that video, and there was another one too where, she's led some hakas in Parliament since then. But that one was just so overwhelmingly energizing and just empowering. And it kind of made me think more critically about like, what are the things that have been important to me culturally and my family culturally. Um, and although we don't have a haka, uh, I think that there are things that I'm trying to learn more like about the language, and tradition, custom has always been like in my house since I was a kid. But like there's I don't know, something that like helps to build confidence knowing that like you are connecting with something that um you didn't choose, but you can choose now to like right to pursue that and to find
Yes.
the connection, and I think that that's been really empowering to me, is just witnessing how others have embraced and are like revitalizing and like fanning those dying embers of their culture that have been tried to be snuffed out by imperialism or colonialism or settlerism. And I think that, I'll continue to have that video bookmarked and saved.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
will
And
keep watching
yes.
it when I need a boost. Because it's
Yes.
really tremendous. If you
Can
haven't
you put, can you, Mark, can you put that in the chat so the rest of us can follow her too?
seen it,
And Mark, I also want to share with you in terms of, Japanese Americans, when I watched the Go for Broke story, getting that stamp, it took 15 years for these three ladies, and I think all of them have died by now, but one of them was alive by the time that the stamp went through. They fought for 15 years to get the Go for Broke stamp to acknowledge the 442. And when you look at the stats of like how many awards they've received, and in terms of World War II, how many dissenters, how many escaped like were dissenters? Zero, zero people, and it is just incredible. So, and all of the cultures we are all here, we all have these stories, but we have to find them and then share them. So, I have a lot of different stories about Japanese Americans, and I wish to learn about all the others as well. Thank you so much for sharing, Mark. And you seem confident. So, way to go. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here. All right, next, Armenia, go ahead and share. What's something you have learned?
Um, I've always or tried to embrace culture and include it in spaces, especially spaces that don't expect it. So you've given me the confidence to do that more and to challenge other people to do the same. You've also challenged me to have confidence in keeping my camera on, so I've been doing that way more often.
That's great. And something that you did at one of the sessions, you said like buenos dias or buenas tardes. So tell us about that, please.
So, I that's one of the ways I like to insert my culture is just by language and giving people permission to use their whether it's their first language, their cultural language, their home language. So I'll say buenas tardes or buenos dias. And one fun thing that happened one time was a lot of times then I'll ask them about their culture and have them put it in the chat. But as we were doing it during introductions, the other people in the meeting then started saying welcome in their language without me even prompting them to do it. So when you are the example and you model it, it gives other people the courage to do the same thing. And it creates a space of belonging and a safe space for people to be themselves and insert their culture too.
Yes, yes, yes. And I find that, Armenia shares that just so delightfully that I've given about 250 speeches in the last few years. And many times, and I'm talking about Asian Americans, and so I'm just flat out talking about that. But afterwards, Mexican Americans will come up to me and say that was so relatable. And then people who are maybe look white will say, I'm quarter Filipino, and or I'm married, or married to an Asian or something. And so it's like, be the example, make it okay to claim your culture. I do not, I won't say, oh, you're always going to be safe about it, but we're not safe now. So claim your culture and get more comfortable. And if you need help doing that, again, have people who have that boldness and learn from them and have them around you so you can absorb it. So thank you very much for sharing. So the second session, we talked about effective communication skills. So, and verbal and nonverbal skills. So these are very important. And so one of the things is I found, like, on that first session before I requested people to turn on their cameras, like nobody had their camera on. And when I'm on Happen, almost nobody who's not speaking has their camera on. And so if you do not have your camera on, and I understand sometimes your company, you can't be because of the nature of what you do. Sometimes you're taking care of a kid, or there's circumstances. But the idea here, if you want to be confident and exude this confidence and get a promotion, be seen as a leader, be respected, then you need to be seen and you need to be heard. So these have to be practiced. And so I do hope you all who are off camera take this time to be on camera and to speak up, because this is a brave space for you to do this. So this is your opportunity to speak like you want to be heard. So say your name, and then you use a mnemonic device, make it easy for us to remember. So Veronica, like Monica, Armenia. So you can spell it out. Also, like change, do you see my name here? It says Jolene in the dictionary slashes. Nobody has a problem with my name, but I model this because other people have names that we don't know how to pronounce. And so I model that. So this is your opportunity to say Jolene Jang. Jolene, like the song, like the Dolly Parton song. And I'm highly skilled at motivating people to action. So this is like 7 seconds of your life here. So I want to encourage you to raise your hand and share with us. I'll be watching for hands raised, and I will wait painfully here while you decide on it. You know what, Mustafa, because you're going to be leaving, why don't you introduce us before you have to leave?
I can try that.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm a first generation American, fifth generation Kenyan of Indian ancestry. And we moved to the United States in 2000 after having spent most of my professional life of 21 years before that around the world doing consulting and contracting work in 10 different countries, lived in 6, and traveled 27. I'm a civil engineer by profession, and I thought I would have absolutely no problem finding work here because we had been here on a visit a couple of times before that, before we finally moved. And unfortunately, none of that experience and background and qualifications actually helped. Finding work here, I made like 200 applications. I got 5 interviews, and all 5 said, "You have great background, great management experience," since I was leading a team of 50 people on a World Bank project internationally before I left that to come to the US. But that didn't help because I didn't have local professional certification. And I had to sit for a fundamentals of engineering exam that people normally sit immediately out of college. And this was a couple of decades after college that I had to sit for that one before I could sit for my professional engineering exam. And although I tried accreditation, they came back to me to say, well, you meet or exceed the technical requirements for a graduate degree in engineering, but you lack in humanities and social sciences. And I'm thinking to myself, the places I worked, lessons in humanities and social sciences are staring at you in the face when you open the door. And guess what? None of the exams I sat for actually tested me for that. Anyway, it took me a while, but I've gotten over those hurdles, and I'm now a certified project manager and a professional engineer. And it has taken me something like 15, 20 years to get back to almost the level where I left off 21 years ago when I first came to the US. So
resilience, persistence.
yeah, yeah.
You made it.
And I completely, understand, one of the interview things hurdles that I came up with is, we tend from Eastern traditions, we tend to be very humble when communicating our experience, and we say um, we are inclusive in our accomplishments. So when I want to say, I've done this, that, and the other, I would bring my team into it and say, we managed on this project, we managed to do this, and we managed to do that, right? One of the feedback I got from interviewees after another candidate was selected was, we really wanted to know what you did. Said, oh, that's a kind of wake up call. So
Yeah,
I had
so
to change my
taking it from the collective, what you're used to and what most of us are
exactly
used to, the collective, and they want to know what you individually. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Mm. Well, the plus
Oh,
point is, my kids are grown up and have excellent jobs and families. One of them is a Stanford grad, so and the other one's pursuing a doctorate at UW. So I think the future looks good, at least for them.
good. Well, thank you, Mustafa. Thanks for being here. I
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much for having me. Yeah, take care. Bye.
Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do intros. So we're going to practice being on screen and with a clean screen, and you're going to just introduce your name and how to remember your name. And then I'm highly skilled at whatever it is. Boom. So we're going to practice that, and I'm going to give you some feedback. So go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, Marissa, go ahead.
Hi, so my name is Marisa
Marisa.
Conestero, and I work for the Attorney General's office. I do not know what I'm good at. I don't know things.
Okay, okay. Marisa, so and if like I said Marissa's name, I said Marissa, which is wrong, and so she said Marisa. So that's great. Do correct people. Do correct people. And just like she did, Marisa. Marisa, what you might do is in the slashes, because probably a lot of people, some people will say Marissa, you might want to do a little what do you call those?
I can't remember, but yes, I
Yeah,
know. I'm
yeah.
seeing everybody's here, and I love that. I will do that.
Yeah, and then Marisa. Does anybody have a clever way to remember
Marisa
Marisa?
Teresa. So Marisa,
Oh,
like
yes, yes. Marisa like Teresa. That is yeah, yeah. So you could say Marisa like Teresa. That's so much, yes, easy. And then what you good at it? All right, we got to work on that. So um definitely watch the first and second videos to just kind of, you're not alone in that, right? We have to be trained to say what we're good at. But in terms of your background and everything, it's clear. Your face is like everything is proportional. So I think you'll be seen. Like you do a good job of having your face there. So thank you, and we'll work on that. Appreciate that. All right, next person, Kathlena.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathlena Lee, and the mnemonic way to help remember is I tend to tell people my name is Kathleen with an A at the end. Sometimes when people first see my name, they just think the A is invisible at the end and just click to say Kathleen. But then I'm like, oh no, there's the A at the end. It's Kathlena, and my last name is just pronounced Lee. And one thing I'm highly skilled at, I would say, is playing volleyball. I was a collegiate volleyball player and played 4 years in college. And I coach now and have coached for 7 years. So that would be one thing I'm confident in saying I'm skilled in.
Yes. And let me give you some feedback. Yeah, Kathlena, with A at the end, that's easy. And also, I think your setup is perfect. I mean, always strive for better, but it looks really good. It's a really clean background. I can see you well. Your microphone could be more clear, and I think it's quieter than other people's microphones. So I would play with the settings on that. And then when you talk about volleyball, you look like a petite Asian. So like most of us. And so the idea that you're very good at volleyball and that you coach. Oh, leadership right there. So being able when you're able to kind of weave that in, I'm not sure how you can weave that in, but I think that shows leadership traits. So I think that's important to throw in there sometime. So Kathlina, thanks for joining us. All right, next person. Armenia.
My name is Armenia. The H is silent. And something you may not know is that in Spanish, all the vowels sound the same. A, E, O, U. So my name has three vowels, mi, ni, a. And I am highly skilled at simplifying the complicated.
And by the way, I think Japanese is very similar to the a, e, I, o, u. So that's interesting. And your setup is great. And it's good that you have a blurred background so we can just concentrate on you. And I think what you have works and I can hear your microphone. So thank you, Armenia. And everybody look at how she has it spelled on her, how it's spelled out. So it's easier for us to understand how to say it. All right, next person. Okay. Oh, hello, Kathlina.
I updated my audio settings. So I want to see if I sound more clear, if there's more clarity in my audio.
That is more clear and it is a little bit louder. I would work on it. I'm not sure if that microphone, it is better and it's acceptable, but it could be more crisp.
Thank you. I think it's my headset, so that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay. Good idea taking action. I appreciate that. Okay. Supriya, is it time?
Oh, I thought it's for the newcomers today.
Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody now. Sorry.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. I am Supriya Sukasi. You can spell my name as Supriya. And what else? Oh, I'm good at cooking. I pick up very easily any new dish and then I try it and I invite anybody to come and taste it. And that's my expertise.
I noted that. I was like, oh, I wonder where she lives. Supriya, so look, your background is great and we just focus on you. We can hear you, we can see you. Your lighting is good. And Supriya, you have it spelled out too, and that's easy. So that's great. And people remember if you do talk about cooking, they'll probably remember that because we all like to eat. Thank you. Okay, next person. Couple more.
So my background is busy, I know, but I also look forward to April because OFM makes these really beautiful Arab American Heritage Month backgrounds, and um, I just can't resist them. So I normally have a little simpler thing going on, but I know, it is a little busy.
Okay, so who are you?
Oh, oops. My name is Mark Metzger. And pronouns.
And I guess we can remember your name, Mark. So what are you highly skilled at?
I don't know. Let's see. I think like creating welcoming environments where people can feel safe and supported to show up as their authentic self. Um, yeah, I think, that's the one thing that I like. I don't know, my philosophy is that we create environments with our presence, and that's the one thing that we do for one another. And I think I use my presence to create a safe space. And yeah, I don't know. I think just creating and building relationships, and through that, I think ultimately community.
So I also think that with showing your face helps us connect. And so being sure to show your face. And Mark, I would make your camera go down a little further so you're not just ahead so we can see a little bit of your shoulders. Yep. And that background is actually pretty good. We can't see like the links, the Arab links. So you can remove those couple of things, but it's a great way to draw attention to some of these months. I did not know that it was Arab American month. So thank you for that. Okay, next person.
Not quite sure where the hand button is. Usually we use Teams. So my name is Lydell St. George, and don't really have a mnemonic to learn my name, but I'm highly skilled at active listening. At my agency, we help the adult disabled. So my favorite part of the job is just kind of listening their stories and seeing where we can help.
Very good. And I think your background is really clean and clear, and your lighting is great. We can hear you, see you. The proportion is great. So awesome. Lydell. So the rest of you can think of maybe some ideas for her, Lydell. So thank you for sharing. And do we want, Veronica, do you want to share?
I can, but I have a loaner because my computer is not working, so I don't have a camera.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, yes, my name is Veronica Hand. I'm originally from Mexico. I'm very, very good at creating teams of people to work together who are like very separate and then finding shared goals and pursue common goals to achieve very good results. Very good at networking with people too. And
Thank you. And Veronica like Monica.
Yeah, yes, of course. Sorry, I forgot about you have mentioned it. But yes, I shared this in a previous training with you, Jolene, that a lot of people call me Victoria instead of Veronica here. Like 90% of the times they used to call me Victoria instead of Veronica. So now that I started saying Veronica like Monica, yeah, it's been easier for them to remember. So I appreciate that we went through these exercises. It's helping me almost every day.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. So let's now move on. I appreciate that you were all on camera and took this time. It's a big deal. Act like you want to be seen. So that means your camera on, microphone nice and loud, and see if you can have a firm voice too. So regarding, a lot of people have anxiety about being on camera and speaking. So what I have shared before is to find your motivation. Is it a carrot? Is it a stick? Is it both? And what is it exactly? For me, mine is justice. I will fight for justice. So when I mentioned Oprah before, there was a guy, a perpetrator, and he was filming up my dress, and he was filming up little toddlers, little girls. And so I chased him down. I thought he was robbing me, and I chased him. And then I fought for a law to outlaw voyeurism. You should not be able to film underneath somebody's clothing and sell it or do anything with it. And so I fought for that. So for me, it's always going to be justice. So a carrot and a stick, I'm motivated either way. So figure out what it is for you. And you can also think back to the past. Like for me, in seventh grade, the band leader, he was mean. There's 60 people in the band, and he would say something mean to a kid, and then everybody would laugh at him. And it's just like, that's not teacher like. And he would do that a number of times. I don't think it was towards me, but it just wasn't right. So I put together a petition in ransom note to get him fired. My parents tell me about this. I'm like, what? But think about your past, because you are resilient and you have gone through a lot. What are those to try and find that motivation? Maybe it's religion, maybe it's your cat, who knows? But whatever it is for you, find it and always have that ready for you when you need support. This was the signing of the anti-voyeurism bill. I kind of look like Monica Lewinsky, unfortunately. And Gary Locke, the first Chinese governor, signed it into law. So when I go through, like I just had a hearing last week about an environmental issue. And so, I'm like, I got a law passed. I can handle this hearing. So I take my past victories and or fights, whether I won or not, and I use it to fuel and give me confidence for what's coming through now. And I had mentioned Oprah. Yeah, I was on Oprah. So I don't know what could be more nerve-wracking than being on Oprah. I don't think there is anything. So I really should not be nervous really about stuff. So, find out what your examples are and have them ready. And then here is an exercise. This is Tim Ferriss. He did the 4-hour work week. I was a big fan of his for a while.